So without any further delay, CPROS you.
All right, hi, good to see you. Glad you could all make it. So we're doing a presentation here on reverse engineering a real old MS-DOS game from 1994 for fun, because we can. Feel free to take pictures of anything that's on the screen. Nothing here is privileged or an issue. So, my actual name is Andrew Lewton. I do go by CPROSU or CPRO for most of it. My early childhood consisted of taking things apart, making all my battery-powered things act up, learning how to put things back together after I had taken them apart. And I got to the point where I wasn't leaving any extra screws or extra screw holes. That is important. So I got bit by the computer bug in preschool by an Apple II Plus computer using a 6502 processor. And so the basic deal with that was, I'm not kidding, I got on that computer and I either put it into a test mode or I made something in Apple Basic that caused a bunch of junk to scroll across the screen. Computer teacher thought that I'd broken the computer, which if you've ever used an Apple II, you can't break it. And so they sat me in the corner, put my name on the chalkboard, didn't get my snack for the day. I was hooked. Had to do computers, had to have my own. So they were prohibitively expensive in the 90s. And it was really hard for me to justify it or get one, but I was going to do it. So what I ended up doing quite a few years later was I was at a computer swap meet, and they had a pile of original IBM PCs. And I bought one for $42, and for my $42, best $42 I've ever spent, I got myself an IBM 5150, the original PC, a clicky-clacky keyboard, 2 5.25 drives, 256K of RAM, a monochrome green screen. And my parents and me trucked this stuff home, and the first thing I did was take it apart, put it back together, take it apart, put it back together, learn exactly what it was, and I started upgrading it. I put a 42 meg hard drive in it, 640K of RAM, CGA graphics, learned everything the hard way about dip switches and jumpers. So after that, I built my first computer at 9. I got my A+ at age 13. Kind of funny story about that. My mom brought me to Icon Business Solutions, who did A+ testing, and the front desk secretary said, "Ma'am, you're gonna have to, leave your son somewhere else. We're not a daycare facility." And my mom said, "Oh no, he's taking the test." So that was fun. So back then they offered a good deal, half off, if you take the brand new test and the old test. And whichever one you pass, you get to have your A+ certification. I passed both, and I did better on the adaptive test, which I was supposed to do worse on, because he's supposed to ask you more questions about stuff you get wrong. Anyway, I have to thank my parents for being amazingly encouraging and supportive. Thank you. So now for something completely different. In 94, 95, my parents bought our first nice computer. That is a Gateway 2000, 75 megahertz. It had the FDiv bug. It was a socket 5 CPU, 8 megs of RAM, 709 meg 5 meg hard drive, 2x CD-ROM, a 14.4 fax modem, a Vibra 16 sound card, which is a cut-down version of the Sound Blaster 16. And it came bundled with some software and some games. And one of them was this game called The Lawnmower Man. So I'm going to change video sources here so I can kind of show you what this game was and why it was kind of bonkers to me. So we're going to wait for that to come up. So keep in mind, this is 1994. And I need to adjust some things. Let's see if we can come up right. Unfortunately, when you're doing things like this, you have to just make things up as you go along. So the graphics in this game are pretty good because it's actually video. Hang on, I'm going to have to recalibrate here. So this is actually gameplay right here. So it goes right into this whole sequence here. You'll see the catwalk. And this is, have anyone here played Dragon's Lair, the arcade game? So this is Quicktime Events before Quicktime Events was coined as a term. So this expects you to press buttons at a specific time. The Rhino Man is now chasing you.
Get ready. Jump now.
So you have to spam the key because the input is kind of junky on this.
Jump.
So we'll get into the technology in a bit.
Jump. 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 Down.
And so, oops. Okay, so I missed that one. But this is good because you see, games were brutal back in the day. Killing you is not enough. You ready for this?
Lawnmower Man's in your head now. There's no escape, ever.
Needless to say, this made quite an impression on 8-year-old me or whatever it was. So, kind of cool thing. This is your only pause screen in the entire game. There are no menu systems, no nothing. If you hit this button, you have 5 seconds, and then it restarts the entire game no matter where you are. If you accidentally press the escape key, it's gone. So let me go back to the other computer right now. So I hope that kind of gives you an idea of what we're dealing with here, which is complete insanity. So this game made an impact, but clearly, as you can see, for the wrong reasons. So one does not simply run an MS-DOS game. So getting this game to load is a challenge. If you remember back in the day, you had to edit your config sys, your autoexec.bat, your EMM386, your HiMem.sys. You had to configure everything properly in order for your game to run. Usually it broke other games and Windows. So there are terms that are very close to each other, but they're not quite right. So there's XMS and EMS memory in DOS. And they are completely different things. So if you have one and not the other, then you're in trouble, especially if you're trying to run a game like this. This game happens to use like XMS memory. But if you did everything right, and you configure it, you remembered what you changed so you could change it back later so you could still boot Windows, then you were fine. So as you saw, you pressing escape at any time exits you and dumps you to DOS. There's no menu system, there's no save system, there's no pause button. Puzzles are timed, and they would fail you if you took too long. The pamphlet was vague about how to play this game. It was not intuitive. You're supposed to figure out how to play this game by trial and error. You got 3 failures, and that was game over. And that's over the entire game, over all the different levels. If you failed it 3 times, you just restarted the game. And of course, the continue button had a 5-second time delay. And if you didn't hit it, well, tough. So yeah, the game used QuickTime Events, which is not to be confused with Apple QuickTime. Anyone remember Apple QuickTime? Before the term was kerned, and it's like Dragon's Lair. So yeah, so these video segments are bridged by logic puzzles and captured video, which I can show a bit later if I get the time. So neat things. This thing was way ahead of its time for '94. Like, it was mind-blowing that it was even possible to do this on a computer. You got full motion animation, video and audio. You got some pretty cool music, I think. The story picked up from where the last movie left off, so it's it's almost like another movie. In fact, I kind of wish Lawnmower Man 2 had this plot from this video game. It would have been a lot better. And it gave you hours of serial gameplay. So how the hell did they do this in DOS? That's the question I had. So 28 years later, how to drop down a rabbit hole. So how did we get here? Well, it was just, I was thinking about it, and I was like, I want to dump the music from this video game because I think it's awesome. And that's why as well. So why all of a sudden now? I don't know. But, you know, it's a good time. Retro computing's big now. And, you know, it's time to bring up some of the interesting skeletons in the closet. So I came here for an argument, not abuse. So if we look at our files on our CD, we got all kinds of stuff going on here. This is not your standard binary executable game. This has some really big files, some really small files, everything in between. The 8SX files, which are at the top there, like act granted, act denied. Well, that sure sounds like it could be sound effects, right? So, you know, in my brain, before I even start opening things up in Hex Editor, I want to kind of see what the developers did. Oh, cool, laser pointer. Don't know how to use it, but, oh, it's green, cool, thanks. So, but yeah, these ones right here, they sure sound like, you know, audio files to me. So, A&M, let's see, is there an A&M? Yeah, there's continued A&M. So, maybe A&M is an animation file? BRS, well, the BRS file that we've got, let's see, where is that thing? Is right here, it's screen save. So maybe it's a screensaver? I don't know. So we got another one called LBM, and let's see, where is that one at? Very bottom? Okay, so LBM file, and we also have one called logo here. So logo is probably an image file, right? So we got map files. Maybe it's a keyboard map. Maybe it's mapped to files. I don't know. Maybe it's an in-game map. NXL. And I really think this is our video. Maybe our video and our audio. And SHT, let's not try to think about that one too hard. But what we do know about them is they're tiny, like 658 bytes tiny. So what could they possibly be? Well, let's try and figure that out. So let's look at an 8SX file first. Bang, it's a sound effect file. And we can figure out that it's recorded with whatever Studio 16 from Sunrise is. So you jump down that rabbit hole and you find out, yes, it's a product for the Amiga. You know, it's a whole entire digital workstation, digital audio workstation. Cool. So now we know that that file came out of an Amiga. And since the card was for an Amiga 2000, it probably came from an Amiga 2000. So maybe we can, you know, work on that and think about what there is as far as that's concerned. I need to grab audio here, so bear with me just a moment. One part I didn't test. All right. So we've got an audio file. It looks like it didn't play, but that's fine with me. It's just basically, it says access granted. So we then need to look at the other files. And what we found out is that the LBM files are actually Deluxe Paint files, which is another popular program for the Amiga. So we're starting to get a picture that this game might have been actually made on an Amiga. This PC game, this PC DOS game was made on an Amiga. So we then take the animation files and we take them apart using this program that's made to work with the Amiga, and we find out, indeed, we have the precursor to GIF here, which is Deluxe Paint Animation. How cool is that? We were able to actually open this up on a PC. So now that's not the entire game, but we need to start putting the pieces together. So the map file contains all these different files and where they are. So this is how the game actually knows where they're installed. And that's important because you had the ability to install all the animation files on the hard disk, not the video files though. You can install, I think, up to like 50 megs of these animation files onto your hard disk so that it wouldn't have to load it from the CD. But the game had to know where to point them. So it has, when you install it on the drive, it hard codes it to where the path was. So if you make the unfortunate mistake of renaming that path or that directory, the game will break because it's all hard coded. So what about this executable file that we got here, DTV play? Well, thanks to some people who actually took apart the program, we were able to find the hidden switches. And it's kind of funny because we have a DOS program that uses case-sensitive switches. So S, lowercase, will skip frames. S capital will actually override which SHT file we use. SHT files, it turns out, we'll get to later. So yeah, it's crazy. This program runs in 16-bit real mode and basically takes complete control of the computer and uses all of its resources to play these video files. So just really, really neat stuff. So I really want to find out the real origins of this game. So I found all kinds of weird things here, like cdtv.device, cdtv, cdtv error. So I thought it was for Commodore Cd Tv because, you know, it would make sense. It was one of Commodore's interesting failed projects. They made a lot of mistakes like this. So I'm curious, has anyone ever seen a Commodore Cd Tv before?
I saw one on eBay once.
So yeah, it's back in the day, in 1991, it was a $1,000 console. So the people whining and complaining about the PS3 being $699, got nothing on this thing. So it was basically, for all purposes, an Amiga 500 that was shoved into a fancy-looking case that kind of looked like you know, a CD player. And they really compacted. I don't know if you can see that motherboard there, but it's crammed. And so they released it in 91. The movie came out in 92 of March. The Commodore Cd Tv was actually discontinued in mid-1993 during the development of this video game. And then they finally released it in 94 for the PC. So, pencil smoking gun? Probably. So, looking for the information on the Lawnmower Man and his potential connection to the Cd Tv, I found a guy named Peter who detailed the Cd Tv games that didn't make it in the Definitive Cd Tv Retrospective, Part 2, who he wrote for Amiga World. So he said, the Lawnmower Man, sales curve, wound up as an IBM game, but started out as a Cd Tv project. It is a series of linked arcade, flying, and puzzle games based around the rather silly movie, which I can definitely say is a rather silly movie. The game was well along. He says he saw the show in 93, but they dropped the project for something else. So, interesting. So if we look, I was able to actually find out that there were 2 different conferences in 93 in Germany. So if anyone's got footage of that, I'd love to see if there's a Cd Tv running the Lawnmower Man in any of that buried footage. I haven't found any yet, though. So my theory is that I think it's possible to take the files that are on the CD and actually make it run on an original platform. So we've yet to decode the video files as of yet, but we're working on it. I'm hoping that between B-Sides and DEF CON, I can have some, you know, a whole bunch of people who are smarter than me take a look at it and see what they need to see and actually take the video and dump it directly. I think that's going to be an interesting, fun challenge and kind of what I'm hoping to do here. So my theory is that they might have used a video toaster in order to dump the files out, and they probably used magneto optical drives in order to actually to actually take the footage from the video toaster to the PC or whatever dev platform they were using then, and then burn it into the final. So I think these might be raw video toaster files. That's my theory on it, and they would include audio, so it'd be kind of like a precursor to AVI. It would still be, you know, interlaced video audio, just in a format that you can't open with VLC Player or anything recent. So I do have an Amiga 2000. I do not have a video toaster. I do not have the appropriate licenses or equipment to open up the files, but maybe someday I will. And then I'll be mistaken because they did something else. But then again, that's why I'm here. So I hope that kind of gives you an interesting background of some of the technology that went behind this game. So I actually contacted one of the programmers who worked on this game, and he got back to me as soon as this talk was actually accepted. So I found out some pretty cool things. So here are his words on it, but I'll you know, paraphrase some of this. So this just happened to be the bestseller they had, and they had another dude who ported it to the PC, and this was actually meant for the Amiga, not for the CD TV. This was meant as a full-fledged Amiga game, which makes a lot of sense. The limitations in color palette, everything that you see, the way that they went about it, the fact that they used an Amiga as a development system, it all makes perfect sense. So he told me that I was right, that the SHT files were actually shot files. They actually set up the order that the video files run in, which is fascinating to me, because it means that each one's a sequence. And what he said was, the way they made it work was they run 2 videos at the same time. And depending on what input you put in, it either gives you the fail or the one that doesn't fail. It's actually running the 2 at the same time, even though it's a single-speed CD drive. And they did some pretty interesting hackery to actually make that happen. As a result, the input for the PC is actually quite janky. It's not pulling very quickly. So you can be pressing the button and it'll miss the pull. So you almost have to spam the button for it to pick it up. You know, it's sort of like, you know, when you're frantically trying to press delete or F2 or F12 for your BIOS settings on a PC. So, yeah. The fun part about the actual PC version was that he said that they had an interrupt request blocking function in the program. And it corresponded to when it was actually reading data from the disk, so input from the keyboard wouldn't actually modify the data that was being run in through the DMA and such. So as a result, you had no control during a disk read function. And you really had no control at all because you're just watching a video of what happened after you hopefully put it in the correct input. So the fact that they actually made it work is amazing to me, because they had just so many crazy things that they had to overcome in order to make this thing happen. So right now, I want to take some questions before I actually have someone try to play the game, because I really want you to see how crazy this is.
Hey, how you doing? Thank you very much for your time.
Sure.
I was wondering, when I think Amiga sound, I think mods, those mod files, like they were like sequenced. Yeah, I used to play with those a lot when I was a kid. Do you know, like, a big issue was like they're porting all this from an Amiga to a PC. What about all the licensing, all the libraries and stuff they have to port? I mean, that just seems to make the game prohibitively, like, expensive to develop.
I think they just hacked it. They were just a game studio of like a couple of people. I think they just hacked it and made it work. They didn't even export it to WAV or anything. They just made it work. I think most of the audio is actually inside the video file, the raw video file. The only thing that's different is the things that are like the mod files, which are these 8SX files here that I showed earlier. And these happen to have samples and such, and they must have written their own home-built player for them instead of dealing with any of the licenses.
Oh, ASX is a sequence.
Yes.
Oh, it might, a mod player might be able to handle it.
Deli Player can play it. In fact, I got it right there on Deli Player. So you can play the sound samples, but it's usually just drum loops or maybe access granted or access denied. You know, it's nothing really, none of the music is in there. Let me see if I've got anything else on that. Don't think so. But yeah, so that's pretty much it on that. They just made it up as they went along and hacked it until it worked. Any other questions? Go ahead. Wait. You gotta get the microphone first. Sorry about that. That's my bad.
So the engine was made for multiple games, not just Lawnmower Man. Have you explored any of those other games and tried to get them to run as well?
I found that although the game engine was used for some other games, they're so wildly different, it's ridiculous. And one of the other engines isn't even the same, it's just named the same. Pretty interesting.
So,
Go ahead.
so question for you is, you know, with, I know you're reverse engineering this, it makes sense, and I probably have this disc somewhere. I can't find it, but is it posted anywhere we can get to it? Has it gone into the common domain? Or?
Yes, you can grab it on archive.org. You just type in the Lawnmower Man and you can grab the ISO of it. And it's there for messing around with, and it's handy. And if you want a physical CD, I can give you one of those too, because I got a couple of extras. Yeah, so let me get this game set up. Actually, while I'm doing that, let's see here. Oh, I got one more thing I want to do first, because I think this is going to be funny. Remember I told you that there were logic puzzles in this game? Well, I'm going to pull one of those up right now. So, who here is good at logic puzzles? Let me get the audio in here. All right, it goes in the one that's underneath the volume knob. So this is one of the stumbling blocks I ran into as a kid. Was this game has these logic puzzles in it? Anyone want to give it a shot? Because you have to come up here and act pretty quickly. I'll try and give you an idea of what's going on, but it's more fun to watch people struggle. So anybody? Anybody at all? Okay, you come up here. Give him a hand. No, don't worry about it. So, this logic puzzle, each column is a separate puzzle. So don't look at the one to the right, just look at the one to the left. And it is one of these things doesn't belong. You can ask the audience for help, okay? Up and down. Moves it up and down. So just wait for it to come up first, and you'll see a little red cursor that selects it. And you have to get 4 of these puzzles right to pass. Okay. Thank you. So, which one of these doesn't belong? All right, so go down to the 6 and press enter. Wait for it. All right, which one of these doesn't belong? All right, press enter. Any idea on this one? So you can see that this would have been a stumbling block for 8-year-old me, right? Hey, you did it!
Access granted.
Thank you. So yeah, that was just an example of some of the crazy things that are actually in this video game. So I thought you'd definitely enjoy that. So there are plenty of other interesting things, like the fact that in the second level, they reverse the controls on you. So
Did you create this level selector?
yeah, it's a completely batch system. I learned how to make batch menu systems a long time ago. And basically, all it is I'm just running a command that brings up the DTV play and selects the level manually. So they switch the controls because you're in an airplane now. Down is up and up is down. But they don't tell you that anywhere. You have to find out through trial and error.
Left.
But look at this. 1994.
Pull up.
These were some of my favorite levels.
Right.
So the way they did this was each one of these segments is a video file.
Down.
And then they string them together in order to form whatever track they want. Oh yeah, and you have to shoot too.
Right.
So this game captivated me for hours because, well, it was interesting and very difficult. And also it crashed a lot too, I remember.
Pull up.
Which, you know, if you spent 8 hours getting through a game
Left.
and then it crashes, you know you're upset, or someone comes in and presses the escape key or the power flickers. It was like, no, this is a PC, it shouldn't be like this. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. That's all I've got.